Well, when we last spoke with Keith Hemmelman, he was off to Nebraska to photograph the 2017 total eclipse. How'd he do? What did he see? We follow up with Keith to find out more. When we visited with you last, you were heading off to Nebraska. How was Nebraska?
Well, I don't know. I didn't go to Nebraska. I, like many people, kept a close eye on the weather, and on Sunday the forecast just did not look promising at all. So I made last-second plans, and I changed, and I went to Wyoming. And it turns out it was a good decision. It was clear skies, a longer drive, but I did hear from some friends that it did clear in Nebraska, at least in several areas, to where they could at least see the totality. But I was pleased that I went with to my decision to change and go to Wyoming.
Every one of these just came out beautifully. So
right.
Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing now. Let's just dive in with this image.
Yeah, this one here it's called the diamond ring effect, and it's during what's called second contact, and that's basically as the moon passes initially to almost cover up the entire sun, and just as that tiny little slice before it covers it up, you get a really bright flare area, and it gives the impression of it's a diamond ring. And I had planned for that, and I was taking a wide variety of exposures during that because you only have a short time to capture that. So I do have some photos that were, deliberately overexposed and underexposed to ensure I caught a range. I had an idea of what to shoot, but I hit it on the mark as far as where to be with my exposure levels, and I was pleased with the outcome. A little bit of editing to bring out some of the highlights and the shadows, but it worked well.
As we move along here, again, now we're seeing, you can actually pick out some of the geography of the moon. It's hard to believe that from this distance,
right,
we can make out craters and mountains and valleys, and that's what's giving us this almost mystical effect all the way around the surface. Right.
It when you look at some of the photos, it looks like maybe the photos aren't nice and smooth. They're just kind of jagged, like, oh, something's wrong with it. But you forget there are craters and valleys on the moon, and the light goes through them differently. And with this image, this is the third contact, and it's the second diamond ring as the moon passes by, and the range of light is amazing, and how quickly it changes. And for a very, very brief moment, you can see in what's called the chromosphere, and it's just kind of a reddish hint on the edge of the moon, or not the moon, but the edge of the sun, but the moon blocks the light such that you can see it.
Tell me about this.
Well, I was sitting there and I thought, when am I ever going to see another total eclipse? Maybe never. So I thought, I don't normally ever do selfies, but I thought, you know what, if ever there was a time to do one, I'm going to do one and have my main lens in the background where I was set up. And the way you see the lens, how high up it was, that actually is, that's the sun, it's pointing up at the sun. This was my setup here with both my cameras. I have the longer lens on the left, and the camera on the right is the one where I have the kind of the homemade filter, and I had it set to do time-lapse photos. So that one, basically, I just started it, and it took a picture every 3 minutes. That was one of the test shots to try to give me an idea of, where to be, with my time-lapse. And I was actually zoomed in a little bit farther on my test shot than what I used when I was actually out in the field.
Now we see it pay off.
Yeah, and here is the entire time lapse from just before the partial eclipse started all the way up through totality in the center. And actually I caught a diamond ring effect in there too. And then it goes, as the moon passed by, it goes back to the partial eclipse to where it's completely past it.
This literally is a once-in-a-lifetime photo.
Yeah, for me it is. I was very pleased. I've seen others that are very impressive and very cool, and it's just amazing. But those folks also had to do some planning ahead of time.
Okay, now this is a different exposure or multiple exposures of the same information, but much, much closer.
Right, these are actually with my longer lens, and I wasn't just doing time lapse with the shorter camera. I was actually taking pictures periodically throughout the partial eclipse and all the phases of the eclipse with my longer lens. That's the one I was really concentrating on. And then in this image, I put them all together.
And this next image steals the show. This is the ultimate total eclipse. The merged photos together with the full colors, and the dynamic range on this is just incredible.
Right. This is, of all the planning I did, this is the one I wanted to get most. Was zoom in, and you know, that feathery smoke that you see, you know, that's the corona, and basically it's hot gases emitting out from the sun, and the farther away they get, the dimmer they get, and it's anywhere from I had read 100,000 times brighter on the inner part than the outer part. Hence the reason to do many exposures to capture that level. And this is from 16 exposures that were from 1/4000th of a second down to 2 seconds. And combined together to where, you know, I could combine all the different areas of that without having blown highlights. And you can actually see in a little bit, it's some of the prominences, and that's some of the little red, it looks like a red arc coming out. And that's basically, you know, a gaseous expulsion from the sun, and they look quite small in the image, but if you look them up on the internet, you'll see you could fit many Earths inside of one of those prominences. So it's pretty impressive to see just, you know, how powerful and big that is, but to get a feel for it up close was really nice.
Now this is a single frame,
Yes.
which the others are comprised.
Right, this would be one of the 16 exposures, and as you see, you can see some detail, but as you get closer to the sun, you lose it. Your highlights get blown out. You just can't expose for the entire range. It's a nice image, but I wanted to capture the entire range.
Do you feel like as you came out of this, a better photographer than when you began planning?
Yes and no, because I have to say the planning worked, and I have a much better understanding of what it takes. So from that aspect, absolutely. No, in the fact that once the totality occurred, I did get that deer in the headlights look.
Who did?
Yeah. So it was I had a moment where I just paused, and I thought, you know, you're just taken back. Because no matter how good the photos are, they don't compare to what it really looks like in real life.
So as you look back on this, you're one of the few people that experienced totality in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. If we look at the whole picture of things, no pun intended, but if you look at this as a complete item now, was it a moving experience for you? Did you find that depth that people talk about when seeing totality?
You know, I did. You're just not prepared for what exactly to expect. You see pictures like this, and then you see it in real life, and it's just so much better. And I think that's what catches people off guard. And like I said, it happens quickly. You know, as the moon comes across the sun, you have a lot of light, and then it does start to get dim in the last several seconds. You know, it's like someone's dimming the light, but then it was just instantaneous. It's just, there it is, right in front of you. And you know, it was a 6-hour drive there, 6-hour drive back. I had a flat tire on the way back. Traffic was horrendous, and it was worth every second of it. It really was.
Well, I can't thank you enough for sharing the photos. They're incredible. They're the best that I've seen, and to know someone that took these incredible images and saw that firsthand, and to share it with all of us, really a great deal of our thanks. So thanks for making this available.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
The next solar eclipse is in 2024. My bet, Keith will be there. Hey, coming up before our next program, on Friday, September 8th, you can come out for a free concert in Fort Pierre. In the city parking lot in back of the Silver Spur, the Rock Garden Tour is coming to Fort Pierre to help celebrate the bicentennial. Now, we're going to tell you more about this in an upcoming program, but right now make plans to come out on Friday, September 8th at 7:30 p.m. This is a great concert by the Rock Garden cast and crew. You know them from South Dakota Public Broadcasting, and PBS is going to be on hand to videotape the concert for later playback. And we're happy to be a part of that. But right now, just plan on coming out Friday, September 8th, 7:30, the Rock Garden Tour. Free admission for everyone. Street Masters is going to be there. I'm told that Willie Cowan will probably be bringing in some covered wagons and giving kids rides and hay rides and stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So there you go, a little bit of insight ahead of the Fort Pierre Bicentennial. This is an early preview concert, Friday, September 8th, 7:30 p.m. in back of the Fort Pierre Silver Spur off Deadwood Avenue. Hey, a couple of viewers have been asking how they can get their project and ideas on this program here at Insight. Well, it's actually pretty easy. Just drop us a line or shoot us an email here at OaheTV. Justin and I are always looking for something to do or cool places to go. Send us an email, note us at OaheTV.com, and we'll see what we can do. Until next time, I'm Patrick Callahan for Associate Producer Justin Jensen and Sigrid Wald at Avera St. Mary's. Thanks for watching.